Hey, good morning, folks. This is Spirit Journey. Today is Tuesday, June 16th, that's 1/6/2020, and the time is approximately 5:57 a.m. in the morning. I've been up for a while now. I woke up real early this morning around 1:30 or 2 o'clock, and I stayed up. And I can't seem to sleep, and so I was just browsing YouTube, and I came across this video. It's uploaded by NTD, as you see there, and it's entitled Seattle Protesters Claim Autonomous Zone, etc. Okay, so I want to play this for you, just a part of it. Let me just make the screen bigger.
Protesters and far-left activists have occupied a 6-block area in Seattle, Washington by barricading streets to block off vehicle traffic. The area is known as the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. Seattle police report that people with guns are checking the IDs of people trying to enter the area at several checkpoints. People gathered in the street to listen to speeches in front of a banner that reads, "This space is now property of the Seattle people." Signs on nearby street barricades declare, "You are entering Free Capitol Hill," and "You are now leaving the USA." The protesters have a long list of demands, including completely abolishing the Seattle Police Department and its attached court system. Seattle police abandoned the city's East Precinct building Monday night amid increasing protests over the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis police custody. The precinct building is located within the occupied zone.
So fly your flag. Okay, just going to put it on pause. Okay. Now you should see the police, I thought I put it on pause. Let me stop it. Now, as you all see, look very closely at the people there. Now, the people of Seattle claim that, at least the police abandoned that police station because of the rioting, because of the murder of George Floyd. Okay? George Floyd was a black man. And what happened to him was horrible, and what preceded it is very questionable. And to die ultimately because of a pack of cigarettes, so all this deadly force for one person, and he was just in his car minding his own business, and that led to his death. But look at all these people here. This is in a different state. This isn't even in the state where the murder occurred. This is in Seattle, Washington. And as you look closely at the people, who are most of these people? Look very closely at them. How many black people do you see? How many people there are grieving because of the murder of George Floyd or the other black people who got violently killed by the authorities? How many you see? But what you do see is a community of people, whether they're actually from Seattle or not, we don't know. But it had been taken over by people who possess weaponry, who are, in essence, separating themselves from the police and the legal system. They're having something of their own. This is a breakaway society in a nutshell. Isn't this considered like trying to overthrow the country? What if all these were black people and they had those type of weapons that you saw there. Do you think the National Guard would be called in? Do you think maybe the U.S. military would be called in? If all these people were black people. But you don't see anyone entering there. You don't see police brutalities. But my instincts are telling me if this was a black town and people fighting the police enough for them to abandon a police precinct, don't you think they'll be calling for help, higher help? Remember what happened with what they call Black Wall Street? What led to that? What led to Black Wall Street? It was an event that happened in Oklahoma over an alleged being touched by a black man in an elevator, allegedly. And in those days, black people did not want to associate with whites for very good reasons of abuse. But provocations and people being lied on to create a narrative so you can abuse a people. And excessive force was used against those people of Oklahoma, a section of Oklahoma. And what happened from the alleged being touched by a black man in an elevator? It was a white woman running the elevator, and her claims alone got him arrested. And the black community was very tight back then, whether it was his friend or not, but either way, a black person came to get him out of prison, out of jail, and he brought his weapon and demanded that he be released. But it resulted in chaos. So here, one man being arrested, another man saying, hey, you know, because they knew what was going to happen. They were going to try to lynch him, the person that allegedly touched a woman in the elevator. And as a result of this conflict, the U.S. government deployed firebombs from planes and dropped them over a whole city because of this one man and the potential riot that was going to result when they wanted to get him out of jail, because they didn't want them, the whites there, to lynch this man. So you see in history that just one person and the fear of this white town and an excessive force was used against this black city, and it never recovered, and they never got reparations. So here, close to 100 years later, now in Seattle, Washington, and again, there was no abuses that was done there. You know, the person didn't, George Floyd wasn't killed over in Seattle, Washington, but these people, it looks like a mostly white town, and they overthrew it. And they're just there, allow their autonomous zone to dominate, and they're not being clobbered by the police. There's no National Guard or military being deployed upon them. So there's two different justices. And all these riots that are happening in the United States now, these riots, not protests, rioters, are people who actually want to overthrow the country. I don't know despite all the things that happen to black people in America, we're not trying to overthrow the country. But you have some white people who are infiltrating legit protesters of peace. They infiltrate and then they put in their own agenda for anarchy. You have anarchists that really want to overthrow the country and use any excuse to manifest their pus and to overthrow the country. And who gets hurt in all this but black people? Our communities get devastated, more unemployment, but we're never doing things like anarchy and overthrowing the country. We're not about that. But these people are, and they're getting black people, black Americans, in trouble. Be very wary of people who don't look like you, who come into your community or want to join your peaceful protest and then do anarchy. These are probably rich white kids. I have a feeling that they're Zionists or connected with Zionism. And when everything is said and done, they're going to retreat into the rich suburbs or in Israel. That's what I think what's going to happen. These aren't really down and out white people who are concerned about what happened to black people, but people who are bored and want to do social engineering against this nation. I love this country. I'm born and raised here. It's not a perfect place, but I'm not about anarchy in any form. These people, these protesters, are evil, and they're using what happens in the black community as their excuse to commit acts of, what's that word? Insurrection, takeover, and the overthrow of America. Wake up, people. Don't have these people come into your communities. Prior to this video, there was another video that they are entering these rural areas. Let me see if I can find that video. Hold on. It was just before this one. No, it wasn't that. It could be this one. No, it's one just before this one.
And unless...
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's this one here. Let's see.
The rioters and the arsonists and the looters, and we've seen recipes that have not worked to repel the rioters, the arsonists. They kind of in rural America because they have announced their targets openly because they perceive their targets to all be soft targets. And so they have such hubris to where they're just saying what they're going to do and then they follow through and execute time after time. Amazingly, they've been met with very little resistance in a lot of the country. People are starting to pick up on that, and people are starting to stand their ground. So we've seen models that have worked to repel the rioters and the arsonists and the looters, and we've seen recipes that have not worked to repel the rioters, the arsonists, and the looters. Now, clarification of terminology. I don't know why I have to go over this, but apparently I have to. A lot of people have an IQ below 70. And so, here we go. A protester is not a problem. People who are protesting for the death of George Floyd or Michael Brown or whoever, or I don't know, pick your topic. Whatever your outrage is.
Oh, I forgot to give the name of this guy. Okay, his video, I forgot to give the name. I'm trying to get the name. Tiborasaurus Rex. Yeah, heads up rural America, the blank elements are headed your way. Rex reviews. Okay, and what he's saying in short, that they're infiltrating rural areas, but he says a particular thing. I don't want to play the whole thing. Oh, I don't even remember what it was. I saw the whole thing. It's 20 minutes and 30 seconds long, but this guy mentioned, yeah, I'm not going to play the whole thing. You can always look at it at your own leisure. But in short, Antifa is infiltrating small towns, like might be 1,000 in number, the town, and they're techno-savvy, these invaders. And they have this device that can, he used the term jam, that can jam the signals for the wireless security systems. And they're using that to break into people's trucks, like a lot of rural areas, they have trucks, and the people may leave their weapons in the truck. So they break into the truck, take the weapons and the money, or they break into people's homes. They go at like 2-3 o'clock in the morning and do this. So he's warning people in rural America what they're doing. This is important to know, because see, how do these Antifa or Antifa-like individuals, where do they get their money and guns from? Well, this YouTuber is suggesting that's how they, well, he didn't outright say it, that's how they're getting the weapon, but it's by implication. The weapons are being stolen and money's being stolen because they have technology savvy, and they're jamming the signal for the wireless security systems. So people, don't be so confident about this wireless system. See, a lot of people want to go wireless. They want to see what's going on remotely in their house, like they're at a party, and the phone signals to them. Anybody who walks past their house or goes on their steps, and they have this thing. And it looks cool, right? Well, if that's a wireless system, anybody could get a jammer, disarm it, or you find the access code so they can enter and wipe you out. He suggested, this guy, he said, go back to the old alarm system, not the wireless one, because they're breaking into your property, stealing all your money, stealing your weapons, and then using it against your own community. Let's wake up. Let's wake up, all people, all races, because you have the anarchists, the true terrorists that you really should fear. You're focusing your attention on a black man who allegedly had a counterfeit bill. Probably a store gave it to him. We're looking at the wrong person. And each time you get deceived, because the propaganda is against people of color, any dark-skinned race people. And the real anarchists are people contrary to what we look like, who are truly trying to overthrow the country. Some white people are aware of that, and they're letting people know, like this person is letting people know, don't trust what's going on, okay? People are sharing information. So each one teach one. Don't believe the hype. Be careful who comes into your community. And use wisdom. Just because someone is jogging, a black person is jogging through your neighborhood, doesn't make him a criminal. Remember that. Because again, before George Floyd died, that guy Armory was just jogging and was murdered because some white people went on an alert and were hyper vigilant on an innocent person. But then you get people like those anarchists who go into Washington State, Seattle, Washington, who are doing havoc on your community, but then you're not running and getting them and arresting them because you're focused on the wrong, but you don't know who your real enemies are. You don't know who your real enemy is. You have to start waking up and stop using reason. Is someone just jogging? Someone just running? But here it's someone with a machine gun who's taking over your town, and you don't even blink an eye. And the next thing you know, you have to wear and walk with a pass just to walk in your own city because people are taking over and they mean no good at all. They're taking an inch, they're taking a mile, they're going to take the whole loaf soon. Wake up. An enemy isn't a color. An enemy is a behavior of intent, and that intent is to destroy you. Wake up. All races, wake up. Thank you again for listening. Signing off. Bye-bye.